Hello, and welcome to the Digital Experience Team's sprint planning meeting for this release cycle. So first off, we signed up some new we created some new issue boards. Hopefully that'll help us do these exercises quicker and kind of know what's going on for the sprint and know what work we can pick up and from the backlog and that sort of thing. And then, yeah, Tyler, it looks like you're next. Got some items coming up next.
Yeah, so my sprint plan coming up, I have to first up follow up on the Slippers pipeline. I broke our CI and Slippers trying to do some automatic deployment NPM. So I think just some cleanup there from some copy paste that went awry. I also have an issue open for a proof of concept on Vue.js server-side rendering, which will basically give us the ability to use Slippers as Vue components and statically render them out for the middleman integration. Lauren and I have been talking about the authorization code flow for Netlify CMS. The way we're doing auth right now is getting deprecated, so we need to move quickly and implement another way to do it. Tomorrow I will be merging a 500 error in some of our I'll be implementing a 500 error. What I mean to say is I'll be implementing a fix on some 500 errors through our API calls in the middleman build process. That's all ready to go. I'm just going to merge it tomorrow when I've got more time to keep an eye on it. I've got an agency day DevOps topic page. I have some follow-up from Open Graph Images extension with Rebecca. I have to do some code review on some community contributions to our middleman dependencies, and then merge those and also kind of babysit them to make sure that everything is still working. Lauren got started on the blog page template, and I will be picking that up and moving the ball forward on that. This is actually what I'll be working on first, since it has the highest impact for the rest of the team and our OKRs. I might have capacity, although I added a few things since I wrote bullet number 10, but I should have some capacity to actually build out some Slippers components, but I don't see an epic, or actually I think Javi, you built an epic somewhere. I wasn't sure where it was, but
Yeah, I
I
can
would
link it to
be,
you.
yeah, if you want to like honestly just assign me to, let's start with one. Do you want to just like assign me a component and I will like do the thing?
Yeah,
I'd
that
love
sounds great.
to do a little bit of that. So I'll take that on as well. Um, and yeah, I may bump that back if the other stuff takes priority, but I'd love to contribute to getting our component library built out. And I think that's it for me. Brandon, are you next?
Yeah, so the next item kind of came up last minute last week. So I'll be working on a MVC for a landing page for localization efforts. So this will be first iteration will be fairly straightforward and small and get us moving in the direction of the Japanese market, I believe. So yeah, that's probably where I'll be focusing a lot of attention this release cycle. And of course, agency day work will probably lean towards the commit event as well, although I didn't write that down in the doc yet. So yeah, up next it looks like is Jess.
Yeah, thanks. So I actually finished up tree testing over the weekend for navigation. So just got to kind of go through it all, analyze it, and create some sort of readout for that. And I'll use the results of the tree testing to work on the first iteration of navigation design. I've also got two things in there for the partner pages, a template and then final designs. Those were, I think, originally agency day things, but I think due to timelines, they might end up in the sprint as just regular work. I'm also might need to look into the final design for highlighted pages because we have 6 featured partners right now. So I don't know if that's really 6 things instead of 1. So TBD on where that ends up, but keeping those in mind. And Tina.
I'll be working also with Brendan on the localization template for Japan. I called it a template. It is a landing page, but we're hoping to make it a template for future pages. I'm going to wrap up the solutions landing page template for CI. This is an agency day issue from last week that's coming into this week a little bit. Also calling it a template because we're going to use it as a template for future solutions landing pages and also possibly other pages. And that brings me to a new issue that I'm going to try to get done in this sprint, is to just create a set of templates for agency day designs for the designers, so that we can just pull from one file with several components so that we can make our agency day work a lot more efficient. Blog designs are finalized, so I will be prepping those files for handoff to Tyler. I'd like to sync up about what we're going to do about the merch block, how we're going to update that. I've also want to plan for design to engineering file handoff. So I'm going to plan a workshop for that for next Monday. If somebody wants to help me with that, Javier, put your name there just because I know you have your head in that. Maybe Stephen can jump in as well. And then I'll start getting my head into commit as well. Next up is Sanmi.
Thank you, Tina. So for this sprint, I'll be working on the homepage MVC 3.03. So we have a new design, not actually a new design, just some updates to the homepage so that it can be consistent with all our other pages like the enterprise page, the small business page, and the campus page we just released recently. So I have like, I think 8 tasks that I need to go through to, for example, I'll be creating an alternative CSS path for the video carousels that we're using, and I'll be moving some components around, and that should be very, very pretty fast for me. So the second thing I'll be working on once I finish the homepage is the migration of our child topics pages. We have almost 31 of them. So I'll be getting into that and see how many of them we can take down before the end of the spring. And if I still have time, or maybe on the agency day, I would love to support Shane Rice, because there is an issue going on that our YouTube videos are not being, the Google Tag Manager tag is not firing on our YouTube videos when the users are playing the video, but it's only happening when that video is playing from a pop-up. So the pop-up is not triggering on the DOM. So when the user is playing the video, we don't know how long they played the video. We don't know how many minutes they spent on that same video. There's no analytics coming to us. So I'll be trying to support Shane Rice on that and see what we can do. Maybe we'll have to refactor our code for the carousel, or maybe there's something that I can do from Google Tag Manager to always wait and know when the video is being played before the tag will fire. So that is what I'll be working on during this sprint. Next is, who's next?
It's me.
Laura. Because I know
So,
Lauren is not here.
I know. Yeah, two L's. Yeah, so I'll be continuing on. I had started towards the end of last week, working on the grid foundational element and getting a prototype working in our Storybook instance. So that shows, as you're dragging Storybook, it'll show kind of where things fall on our grid. And then after that, I have time to pick up more Slippers components. So I've put in checkbox radio, but again, like Tyler mentioned, in that epic, if there's more priority things, I can switch that around. And then I had assigned an issue last sprint for spacing and padding in CSS in our about.gitlab.com repo for some of the pages that we had worked on previously, and just making sure that they're using the new margin and padding. That should be margin and padding, whoops. And so I moved that to this sprint so I can update that as well. And then I have the page that I believe Tina had been working on, the CI page that was assigned to me that has a milestone of the 19th. So I'll probably put some work into that this week as well. And that's it for me. I think Javi's next.
Hi, everybody. I have this issue open for like Foundation CSS. There's nothing in there right now, but something that I realized kind of as I was thinking about things over the weekend was trying to figure out how the library should function. And it just came to me that like the foundations kind of function as like the CSS kind of like backbone, whereas the components themselves are implemented in Vue. So like making that distinction super clear, I think will help us like think about the work that we're trying to do. Something that I was listening to over the weekend and during a little bit during the work week was this talk with Brad Frost about using Storybook itself to create web pages. I think that's really like a really interesting concept because it gives you like a dedicated UI space, and I kind of want to play around with that concept. It also helps us from the purge CSS standpoint with Tailwind, figuring out what classes should actually get purged and unpurged. I think there's like a little bit of I don't know what you call, I guess you could call it stubbornness on my end to try to figure out what classes get used. I think the only way to know is to actually use it to build something in that way. I think it'd be interesting to try it and see exactly what happens and what the purge ends up. So I just have like a very vaguely defined issue there that will probably be better defined as the sprint goes on. Next item, yarn start in slippers is kind of finicky for me. I wasn't sure what was going on. I figured out that start storybook command hijacks like the threads, so that like essentially you can only run like the yarn storybook command, and the yarn watch command gets pushed, like it just doesn't ever run. I found a fix to that. Laura shared a resource for how to fix that for an npm package that does that. I did it. The MR is there. Someone should check it out. I have an agency issue for newsletter archive. I have to, yeah, we have to further define that because I'm not sure what the deliverable looks for that. So it might be possible that that has to get pushed back even more. CSS normalization in regards to a conversation we had about getting about.gitlab slippers to merge, like getting that figured out. We had an issue where I had to turn off pre-flight in a pre-existing merge request that Tyler had opened. And so I just want to make sure that we have that figured out, because we would hate for something to be built in slippers to look differently on about GitLab. That's kind of like, that defeats the purpose of having a thing. So I think it's important to figure that stuff out. That's probably one of the first things that I'm going to be doing, because I think that's like quite important if our design system doesn't work on our site as expected. So there's that. Tyler also called out very quickly the epic for slippers that I should link somewhere. It's linked up there. You've seen it. And it's just like trying to figure out like in what order do we want to implement the components that we're building based on the foundation. So, and thank you, Brendan, for linking that. I don't even know who's sharing this. Laura is. Thank you, Laura. That's it for me. We have Stephen up next.
Yeah, I'll be summary. So I'm the DRI on the product feature description solutions page. So I'm working on filling out that issue on some iterations, and then adding some blocks to our Figma file as from a few meetings that we did last week. And then just general upkeep on the Figma file as well. So that's all for me.
All right, thanks everyone. That's our sprint planning session. Have a good week.